For years, when it came to choosing a magnified optic for my rifles, I never purchased an optic that was over $60. To me, all I wanted was a closer look at my target downrange, and that's it. This mentality worked for some time until I realized my budget scopes weren't as clear as I would like them to be. My first experience with a scope priced more than $60 was a Nikon Buckmaster with BDC reticle. After that, I realized what I was missing in life. But even the Nikon Buckmaster didn't hold me over for too long. I realized that I wanted a few more options, but my old way of thinking stepped in, and I wouldn't bring myself to purchase a scope that had the features that I wanted in it. Enter 2018 ShotShow when Nikon introduced their new line of magnified scopes called the P-Tactical. When I read up on all of the features of the new scopes, it was exactly what I wanted, and when I noticed the price point, I realized that Nikon built this scope for people with my mentality. The P-Tactical was designed to meet the demands of shooters at an affordable price point. It's an entry-level quality scope with an MSRP of $200. If you're familiar with Nikon's P series of scopes such as the P223, P308, this is simply a refined replacement to the P series of scopes. So what exactly are you getting from a $200 scope offered by Nikon? Well, let's first look at some of the refinements they've made over the P series of scopes. Cosmetically, one of the things you'll notice is that all of the markings on the scope are actually engraved or etched into the scope instead of being painted. You'll also notice that there are directional markings engraved into the turrets as well, which is kind of nice because they're all over the entire turret, which means no matter what position you're in, you'll actually be able to see which direction that you want to go or need to go for your adjustments. As for the turrets themselves, they actually have a more solid feel to them. And when you grab onto these turrets, you'll notice the serrations on the top. They almost have a dovetail style cut to them so that when you grab onto them, you really actually feel them dig into your fingers, and not in an obtrusive way, but more as an aggressive feel to them so that there's really no slippage at all. It's very tactile when you're working the turrets on this thing. The click adjustments on the turrets are fairly easy to negotiate. It doesn't feel like you're going to skip past any notches or clicks in the turret. It's fairly noticeable when you hit from one click to another. And one more nice feature that Nikon threw into these turrets is the instant zero reset, which means once you find your zero, you simply pull up on the knob and rotate it to the zero mark, allowing you to know exactly where your zero is at all times. Moving on down to the glass, as always, you can see you get Nikon's edge-to-edge clarity. The light transmission and contrast inside of a Nikon scope has always impressed me over the years, and a lot of guys will say the same. There's a reason for that. If you haven't had a chance to stick your face up to a Nikon scope, you really will notice just how crisp, clear, and bright the picture is inside of the scope. Take a look at this footage here, and you can see outside of the scope as well as inside of the scope, there is very minimal difference, if at all any, inside of the scope as compared to the surrounding footage that you can see outside of the scope. Nikon scopes has always been pretty impressive to me. As for the eye relief to the glass, you get a 3.6-inch eye relief at minimum and maximum zoom, which allows you to keep a cheek weld or maintain your cheek weld on the stock. This is kind of nice because, as mentioned earlier in the video, all of my cheaper scopes, I would have to scoop my head closer to the scope as I went to max power. Now with this one here, you can keep your cheek weld and not have to move your face around on the stock, which allows you to comfortably zoom in and out and work through the powers of the scope. And quickly, while we're on the topic of zooming in and out on the power selector, you can see the ring is very nicely serrated, just like on the turrets, and so nicely serrated that you don't actually have the need for a knob like most scopes have on them to be able to push that zoom around. This one actually has serrations all around it, just like on the turret, that allow you to just simply grab on and go. They're just cut that nicely. Also worth mentioning is the quick focus eyepiece that is on this scope. You can see here that it quickly moves all the way out, all the way in order to find the focus of your eye in that scope. Taking a look inside of the scope at the reticle, you can see the hash marks are very fine. Everything is nice and clean inside of there. The hash marks that this one is the Nikon's MRAD, which is essentially milliradian. But they do offer this in the MOA reticle, and each MOA and MRAD has their own turrets to match. So if you get MOA, you get MOA turrets. You can see everything is very nicely clean inside of the scope here for the reticle, and you can see any of the hash marks through a lot of the different background that I'm zooming through here. Now Nikon offers their cartridge-specific reticle in 223 and 308, 600 yards out to 800 respectively for each cartridge. They also offer their P-Tactical rimfire BDC out to 150, so you can get quite a few different options for whatever it is you're looking to get for. And with all these features coupled with Nikon's spot-on ballistic app, kind of gives you an idea of ahead of time where the point of aim to point of impact is going to be and vary between different brand weights, grains, and all the ammo variations out there before you hit the range or while you're at the range. It's kind of a nice little app to have and just roll through while you're sitting around reading on things. So as you can see, the Nikon P-Tactical offers quite a few features for a nice price point that someone like me that is getting out of the very cheap scopes and into something that is much better. So if you suffered, like I did, with cheap scopitis, which is basically a mental disorder that doesn't allow you to spend money on a more quality scope, look into this Nikon P-Tactical, and it might help bridge that gap between getting out of the lower budget-minded scopes into a much better healthy lifestyle of being able to shoot with a nicer scope out there that doesn't actually break the bank. So I hope this video helped you out, guys, and if you did, appreciate it. Feel free to hit that like button down there and share. Let me know if you have any questions about it. I'll do my best to answer. And we really appreciate you guys watching and the support over the years. We'll catch you guys next time.